Welcome everybody, I'm about to start my first video here. I'm going to talk about Stranger Things, the hot topic of today, after the finale just 2 days ago. It's January, well now it's January 3rd because it's like 1 a.m. here, but yeah, it was January 1st at 2 a.m. that it came out, at least in my local time. Um, but yeah, so let's talk about this because it's definitely a controversial ending. And I have definitely a lot of thoughts about it, that's for sure. I've gotten it to sit in now. It's been over a day, so I got it to really put my thoughts into it, hear other people's opinions, to ball back and forth, you know. And now I've cleared out my thoughts, and I have a more cohesive idea of what I'm thinking. So, what I think overall is I do think the ending was good, especially like towards most of the half of it. Like I actually think it was a good ending, but because of the like fighting, I don't think it was deserved. And I should probably point out this is gonna be a spoiler review, so um I'm gonna get into a bit of details as well. Just probably should clarify that as well. So for anyone that hasn't seen it, definitely um don't listen in any longer. But yeah, so overall though, I do think it was a good ending. I just don't think it was deserved ending basically. And I don't think it was deserved because of like the grand fight scene, right? Or grand. Because I don't think it was grand enough. That is kind of why I don't think the ending was deserved. Like the epilogue or like, seeing all these characters like get a good ending, that's what makes it a good ending, is the way it actually just ended. And I think even the end of the fight was good, of how they killed Vecna. Like it was Joyce holding the axe, kind of like season 1 of Stranger Things, when she had the axe, to fight like the Demogorgon, and that she now finally gets to like win a battle against these monsters, specifically with the axe. Right? I think that was very poetic. I think that was amazing. So that even the end of the fight was not even like anti-climactic, really. It wasn't like it hit the mark, I think. And even pretty much after that, the only issue is definitely some plot holes there with like the whole military, and I'll get into that as well. Um, yeah, but the main issues I like definitely had with the fight scene was just like everybody's been saying, where was the Demogorgons? Where was the Demogorgons? Like they were just gone, the demi-bats, and even like these tentacle monsters that we've seen sometimes, well, not well, like these tentacle thingies. Where were they? There's like I even think they should have like introduced maybe some new kind of cool stuff that's like, oh, that hasn't even come to our world yet. I think like they really could have given it more of a grandiose kind of like um yeah, for sure. And I don't have a problem that it's kind of like a desert where it feels kind of empty. They already kind of introduced it in season 4, and I heard like the Dapper Brothers' response was kind of like, "Well, you saw in season 4 how it's kind of empty and stuff like that." Well, for me, I feel like that's kind of just a stupid excuse, because I think like even though it's a desert, it could have been that they're all like underground for they don't like the heat, right? So if they live kind of like in a desert kind of looking environment, then the only explanation for me would have been kind of like that they live super, super far under the ground or something like that. And then maybe they bury upwards or something like that. And that's why it looks super desolate at first, until like they get too close to like the nest, right? Where like the mind flayer is. And then when they dig out of the grounds or something, and it would have been like a jump scare, give that horror thing that also Stranger Things was originally. And like really put people on their the edge of their seats, to really make them on their toes, to not just like make it too easy. It felt like the fight was way too easy. I feel like they needed some surprise. And also another weird thing is that the 3D artist, or whoever directed them to design the whole mind flare, it was already intended, like from a design perspective, as I saw when Steve and Dustin was popping eggs. For me, those like eggs. Well, it must be that some type of monster, like the bats or demogorgons, are spawning from those eggs, or at least it looked like some type of eggs they were like popping in like the stomach of the spider-looking mind flare, right? So for me, it was like almost like they had intended it, but then just didn't fully commit to like having more monsters. So there definitely should have been more monsters, and because for me, it felt like, how can these kids, except for like Eleven and Will, fight the Mind Flayer? I don't even think it should have been considered that they were fighting the Mind Flayer. And I get the logic of like they were gonna help just weakening it, so because they're all connected. But that's why I think they should have had like the Demogorgon, Demibats, and all these smaller creatures that they can more realistically. You can argue now they're experienced with Demogorgon and stuff like that. Maybe they know how to fight them off a little better. Weakening them also weakens the Hive Mind. And I think, in my opinion, that Will should have been a lot more of a part of this fight, since he can kind of like fight them. I think it would also been cooler that Will would fight Vecna and Eleven would fight the Mind Flayer, like the big spider thing. I think that would have been a better setup. I Why is because especially in that moment, I love they had that moment, but I wanted more of it when Will was talking to Vecna, going like seeing his trauma, right, and then talking to him about it. I almost wanted, because they've already made so many Star Wars references, especially like near the end here. Couldn't they have made Will and Vecna be like a Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker moment? Like, I so wanted it. And I almost thought it was gonna happen. But no, I was wrong. And I think it would have made the finale perfection. Because if Eleven is struggling with the Mind Flayer, it's a huge beast, he's one-onning it, this huge thing, while everyone else is fighting all these miniature, like Demivats, Demigorgons, Demidogs, all those, maybe some other new creatures, right? They're fighting them off, they're doing their best. Eleven's struggling super much with this huge, like, beast of the Mind Flayer, while Will's inside there, and he's fighting Vecna, but he's losing, he's not winning. And but then he's kind of getting these moments of the trauma from Henry. He's kind of connecting with him, and he's trying to, like, the same way Luke was trying to bring back Darth Vader. He had this hope, will the wise. I think he should have had that wisdom, like Luke, of really trying his best. And they've already kind of had that build up of Henry maybe being a good guy, when Holly was like, oh, maybe this is why he turned bad, this is his past. When they really emphasized on his trauma, it made me really feel like, they kind of had the building blocks there to make it possible to have that Darth Vader moment. That's how I felt, and I think it was there. I was expecting it, and I think that's also why I'm so disappointed. Because I almost was. They made so many Star Wars references. I was like, man, maybe it's gonna happen. We're gonna have this Luke Darth Vader moment with Will and Vecna, and I thought it would be such a cool moment. And another issue, a plot hole that I also learned recently that I didn't even think about, is that if Vecna or the Mind Flayer, if they get killed, that would kill Will as well, because he's connected to the Hive Mind. That's a huge plot hole, right? But I think they could have fixed this and made this amazing end send off. If basically when Will is then fighting Vecna, and when he then connects with him, he kind of, like I said before, have this Darth Vader moment where Darth Vader kind of like realizes it, that maybe he has picked the wrong side, and and I think it would have been such a cool moment that maybe during the fight, Vecna like punches Will out of the Mind Flayer. So now they're also out in the desert, right? And Will is really losing, right? And maybe even Eleven's trying to help, because he's really losing. Now he's even outside. Uh, and then the Mind Flayer takes a chance to kind of whoop Will, and Vecna now turns to fight Eleven. He change it up a bit. Uh, and But then Will, he's just being clobbered around even more, and 11 can't take on both. And when Vecna's seeing him kind of like be taken down by the Mind Flare, that's when you have that Darth Sidious and Luke Skywalker moment, where Darth Sidious really killing Luke, and Vecna's like seeing how he was hurt by the Mind Flare, taken over by it, and that makes him sympathize even more. And then then he kind of like, he like pushes 11 away so he doesn't get like hurt. But then at the same time start pushing the mind flare away. He's fighting it, and Will gets like so confused at first, but then he gets it, and then he has to like tell Eleven this, like, no, don't fight him, and then she just kind of then focuses on the mind flare, and then getting that actual moment, right, of Vecna. He's in so much pain trying to fight the mind flare mentally, right? But he gets it. He's getting there. He's getting there. And boom, he completely like helps Eleven completely dismantle the mind flare, right? They completely dismantle it. But the thing is that he says to Will, before he like completely helps, like completely kill it, is that there's an issue, Will. Or like sometimes through all this says like there's a problem, Will. If we kill the mind flare, we all die, as in like him and Will. And there will be a sacrifice behind this. Do you really want to die, Will? And and either you do, so like Will sacrifices himself, and he's one of the characters that die, right? That is probably the easiest way to write it. But there is another solution if you don't want him to die. And the other solution basically is, I believe, would be that Vecna then absorbs all of Will's like mind flare particles, because you kind of see that they come out of like even the kids' mouths, the new 12 ones, and in season 2 like it's like this misting, like, but you could argue that his DNA has been altered, kind of like Henry, like he's barely even human anymore. So you could all argue that he's had it for too long now, that it's part of his DNA, and maybe then you can't do anything about it, and I mean, you just kind of have to kill him off then. But I mean, we also did kind of need one of the kids to die, in my opinion, like the main cast, to really cast a tragedy. But maybe not. Like maybe that would have made it too sad. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It would have been interesting, but yeah, because you could even made it even crazier, where Vecna's kind of like, right, we're gonna have to die if we do this, or even crazier, Vecna does kill Will to weaken the mind flare, because they're all part of the hive mind, and by killing Will, that helps kill the mind flare too. Or maybe that's even crazier. No, but no, that doesn't even make sense for like maybe story reasons. But what I do think would have been definitely that the most logical thing is just that they have a mental talk between each other, and Eleven hears all this like somehow telepathically. Maybe Will like communicates it to her like, oh, I will have to die in order for the mind flare to die, and then it's like no, and then it happens, and boom, he did an Iron Man. So it's like an Iron Man and Darth Vader slash Luke moment all in one. That would have been crazy. He's like snap. No, but like he sacrifices himself basically, and Vecna also turns kind of like good towards the end, something like that. I think it would have been an interesting ending. At least that's my take. But I mean, I don't know if it would be possible, like with the other scenario, Vecna absorbing like Will's power, so he won't be a part of the Hive Mind. If you can somehow remove that, and then that also makes Vecna then more corrupted, so it makes it harder for him to ignore the mind flare. So he will then say like, you have to kill me now before it's too late, kind of. So then he gives a chance to kill him while he's absorbing all the power. So the moment Vecna's done absorbing Will's power, Will then has to take the moment to just kill like Vecna, like stab him through the heart, uh, and then like help Eleven, and then just kill the mind flare basically. Although you don't get the Joyce moment then, but I think this moment would have been worth trading off, just to have that grand, like really feeling like people are gonna die. But I do think the Will dying would have probably been a better moment. It would really feel like they really had thrown everything they got at these villains, and even then they got a huge loss on their hands. And for me, it's been building up, or at least I thought so until they didn't kill Will, that he would die because he is a part of the Hive Mind. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to. It became basically a plot hole in the end, in my like opinion, and some others too. That I heard, and that's where I heard it from. It wasn't me that thought of it even, but when I heard it being pointed out, I'm like, yeah, that is a huge plot hole. Will is a part of the Hive Mind. their pain is his pain. So if they die, he should die. You see what I mean? So definitely an issue. So yeah. And also, I don't remember exactly, but I think the heart on the Mind Flayer stopped before Vecna officially died. I think they should have synced that up, so the moment Vecna actually died, the heart of the Mind Flayer starts beating. Like that's the heart of the Hive Mind, basically. So that's kind of like, even though you can kill the individuals, I don't think you can truly like die until basically, what should I say? Everything is dead. That's when the heart actually starts beating in the Mind Flayer, is what I think. Because I mean, even when I was looking into Dungeons and Dragons, I'm not the biggest on the, never played it actually, but I was looking in what Mind Flayer is. Apparently, it's like, it's not a specific thing. It's actually like different creatures that have like tentacles, and they can like telepathically like read minds and stuff like that. But it's kind of like there's many of them, and I thought it was interesting with the mist, because the mist is like many particles, so it's almost if each particle is like their own kind of like, and that's why it's like a high mind. It's like all these bees, right? Kind of as like metaphorically, if that's like how it would blend better with the Dungeons and Dragons lore. And then I would find it very cool how like it really, it's like, even when killing the Mind Flayer's physical body, these particles or this gas is always a part of the abyss that technically at some point it will never truly die. So the only thing they really can do is also just save the kids and get out of there and explode and break the connection, which I mean, they want to create spin-off, so technically you could continue it in some spin-off without the Mind Flayer never truly dies. I mean, that's just a whack idea. Maybe that's just a whack idea. But I do definitely think, though, that the heart should have stopped beating the moment Will and Vecna is dead. And that's why, like, even if, like, Will would kill Vecna or something like that, he would have to kill himself or something for the heart to truly stop beating in the Mind Flayer. You can't just destroy the body. Like, I think it's like a hive mind, and that's like the central place. I think that would have been more poetic, that when they're killing everything off, like the each Demogorgon and the Vecna and Will himself, then it's like you really weaken the Mind Flayer at that point. You can stab the heart and it will start beating, or like stab it and the heart will stop beating or something like that, or maybe 11 should have just crushed the heart, and it's only possible to crush it when, like, at least Vecna and Will is dead. And when crushing the heart, even then everything actually dies, like the weak stuff, like the bats fall to the ground and stuff like that. Like, I think it could have been definitely, I mean, I'm just throwing a lot of stuff in the air there, but I think something along those lines of like Vecna temporarily kind of having a Darth Vader moment, Will having to do a grand sacrifice because he's kind of connected to all this, and having all these smaller enemies for the rest of the group to fight off. I think those three ingredients would have made the finale way better. And really letting Will and Eleven carry the big battles, and just really feeling the tension, and that the battle didn't just last 20 minutes but became like a 40-minute like end game grand fight, and there's actually like a lot of stuff going on, right? I think that would have made it really good. And then after that, I think the epilogue was amazing. The next thing that needs to be fixed is the military plot hole of like, was I heard being mentioned mainly by Morse Critical, which is a very good point, of like the military, which is that Hopper and Nancy, at least them, and 11 of course, but that's a whole other thing of her killing herself, so that doesn't become a plot her, not her end. But at least with Nancy and Hopper, we saw them kill like at least 50 men together. Hopper like killing the majority. They didn't go to prison, federal prison, or like, even if I'm not saying they had to, that's the only way to fix the plot. No, it's more like at least have some explanation of why they didn't. Maybe these scientist military secret facility, they maybe would struggle doing it, especially because a lot of the military died even in the upside down, meaning their bodies are not even, there's no evidence left of their bodies. And how do you explain that to the government? Oh, there's this other dimension, because it's technically like a secret society. It's not like they're actually part of the government. But although in season 4, I do remember there was a military guy that kind of was like the government. I don't know. I actually don't even know. Tell me in the comments if you guys maybe know. But because I remember in season 4 there was like this like military guy that was like trying to find Eleven and kill her because he thought she was a pawn, but it was actually Henry, and then like that whole plot line. But I don't know if that was the government, like the US government. I think it was, and if that's true, then they do know about like the Upside Down, which in that case it's even easier for them to arrest Hopper, and then like yeah, they killed a lot of people, and then like yeah, easy arrest, right? So for me it's like they really should have had like at least 20 minutes. Almost this almost needed like a daredevil lawyer to like help them out of that situation is what I'm thinking. So yeah, I don't know how they're gonna fix that. So I don't even know if you have any ideas in the comments below of how they should have written that storyline, that meany little subplot of in the finale of how they would get away with that. Please tell. And heck, you know what would have been even better? Having an episode 8 dedicated to the fight and then ending it with being arrested by the military, ending it negatively, like, wait, they're getting arrested now, even though they won the fight. And then the actual final episode, episode 9, can be like 2 hours long, just like it was. But this time, the first hour is dealing with them not getting arrested and resolving that, and then having that long epilogue, resolving everything, and maybe not making it as long as it was. But you know, I don't have that big of a problem with being that long, and it's not like I don't really have any problems with the epilogue, honestly. And if you guys have any problems with that, or what do you guys think about it, definitely leave that also in the comments. Really want to hear what your opinions on this. This is why I'm making this video, is to hear you guys' opinions, because there's very specific things I've been thinking about, like how I would rewrite the fight, and sadly I don't have too many people around me that have seen the show, and also I don't want to just hear biased opinions, because sometimes your friends will just like agree with you, or like I want to hear more like open like opinions, people that really analyze it too, and so definitely want to hear you guys' opinions, what you think of my version of the fights or my like suggestions of how to improve it. And so it would be really nice to hear that. And yeah, if there's any other plot holes, because the 11th thing was not really a plot hole because they were very clever with calling it just a theory. So, and I don't dislike that ending either. By the way, I don't have really much to say about it. It's like, my main problem was really the fight and then the plot hole with the military. So yeah, the plot hole with Will, which is technically a part of the fight. Then yeah, that was the issue. So yeah, that's mainly my issues. But yeah, so that's it for me for today at least. If there's any like I said, leave anything in the comments below about what you guys think, and yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope I haven't been rambling on for too long. And yeah, this is my first time making a video too, so I hope it's decent. Tried to fix lighting here that looks somewhat good with what the resources I have, and the camera. It's just my phone, and yeah. So thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, bye.